to Alice's Magical Podcast, Chapter 33, Alice's Magical Author Time. Today I'll be talking to a special author, but before that, I'm going to introduce you to my special guest. She is my best friend from school, and she's really a great friend. And she is Phoebe. Hi. Hi, Phoebe. Are you excited to talk?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So I'm going to introduce the author now. The author that we are interviewing today creates magical books about mythical creatures, including vampire fairies, yetis, pumpkins, grim reapers, and now weatherlings. Characters that use weather magic, and that's author is Laura Ellen Anderson. Hello.
Hello. Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome.
This is very, very exciting on Alice's Magical Podcast. I'm very excited to be here today with you guys.
This is the second time I've interviewed you.
I know. I remember the last interview and it was so much fun. You asked me some great questions as well. So I'm really looking forward to today.
We've got lots of great questions, haven't we, Phoebe?
Yeah.
Fabulous. I look forward to answering them.
Also, I have finished the Rainbow Grey book, which was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
I haven't finished it, but so far it's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And also, I think Rainbow Grey is a wonderful, colourful and pretty book, and I love your book, and they're amazing and fabulous.
Oh, thank you. That really means a lot. I'm so glad that you're enjoying it because I enjoyed writing it. So it's always lovely when the reader enjoys, reading what you've written.
It really is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's it's so good. I've always, when you posted it up on social media, I'm like,
You almost explode like Nim.
When my mum showed us the book, I was literally like amazed, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop smiling. That's how excited I was. Stop smiling because I was so excited to get the book.
Well, my work here is done. If I made you keep smiling, that's the best thing I can hear.
So let's get down to the questions.
Excellent.
So the first question I'm going to ask you is, after writing Amelia Fang's world for so long, was it hard to put your imagination into a different world?
That's a great question. And I have to say, yes and no. So as you probably know, when your brain's really creative, you're full of lots of ideas. And I knew when I was coming up with Amelia Fang that I wanted to write this Halloween-y, kind of autumnal, kind of slightly gothic, funny book. And I absolutely adored writing Amelia Fang and coming up with all the characters and Squashy the pumpkin and Florence and Grimaldi and Tangine. And so, I always say your characters almost become like your children. You fall in love with them and you enjoy writing about them. And then when I kind of came to the end of Amelia Fang, I had the Rainbow Grey idea kind of in my head. But when you're writing the story, it's really, really important to develop the world and get to know the characters before kind of jumping in with the manuscript. And so I found it quite difficult at first to find my feet in this new world because, I was so used to Amelia Fang and her friends and her world. And I think I put quite a lot of pressure on myself and thought, I'm not going to make this as good as Amelia Fang. And everyone loves Amelia Fang, and will they love Rainbow just as much? And then I think I needed to step away and think, right, this is a brand new story. I need to get to know the characters. And my agent gave me a really lovely bit of advice, actually, which is very worthy if you're writing a story and you're finding it a little bit tricky, is write down all of the things that you love about your character and your story, all of the good things. And so, you bring out all of the rainbows, so to speak, through the grey clouds that you've created sometimes when you've got a bit of creative block. And so once I kind of stepped back and I was a little bit kinder to myself, I thought, right, I'm going to go back in, rewrite this book, and remember all the things I enjoyed about when I was writing Amelia Fang, and kind of put that into Rainbow, and it made such a difference. So yeah, it was a little bit difficult, kind of creating a whole new world when you've already got one that you love and enjoy, and you know that readers love. But I think it's always good to share your new ideas and introduce readers to a brand new world as well, and hopefully they'll fall in love with those characters. So yeah, it was a mixture, but it's been, do you know what, it's been such a wonderful journey, and I'm absolutely loving kind of sharing this new world with all of you guys and getting all of your feedback as well, and hearing everyone talk about the new characters. But Amelia's always there, as you know. There's a few little cheeky Easter eggs in there, aren't there? But yeah, bit of a mixture, but that was a really good question.
And I also have a question. So what age did you start writing your books?
Oh, great question. So is that writing any books or writing books for work professionally?
For like books you've been writing, like the start of like when you started writing normal but like books like Amelia Fang.
So that would have been, oh goodness me, this is the part that makes me feel old now. I think that was probably 7-8 years ago. So I think I started writing my first picture book. So I started off by writing picture books such as I Don't Want Curly Hair. And I wrote that, I think, in around 2013, so 7 or 8 years ago. I remember, and that was really good fun. That was writing a rhyme, and I remember I was writing that because I'd just been to hospital, and I was lying down and I couldn't get up because it would give me a really bad headache. And I thought, what can I do whilst I'm lying? There's not much I can do. And I thought, I'll do a bit of writing. And I had this idea that I came up with at university about this girl trying so hard to straighten her curls out by sticking it with sellotape to the wall and doing everything she could. And I wrote this little poem, and that developed into the picture book. So that's kind of when I started writing. And then I was still illustrating for lovely authors such as Shabale Pounder, who writes Witch Wars, and the covers for the famous 5 books in Terry Pratchett. So whilst illustrating those wonderful stories, I thought, I really want to start writing bigger books, fiction, for like kind of middle grade level. And so it was around 2015, so about 6 years ago, that I started kind of writing the longer books like Amelia Fang.
Wow.
Yes, it's been a while, and it's gone really, really fast. And now I never want to stop. So I want to keep writing forever now.
Our next question that we're going to ask you is, if you could have weather magic, what would you have?
I love this question. I kind of go in and out, but I think I would really like to have cloud magic, because it means I get a cloud companion for life. And with your cloud companion, not only do you get to make beautiful shapes in the sky, but you can fly around on them, and they're with you all the time, a little bit like a demon from Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials. So a little bit like that, they're always with you, and they can come in all shapes and sizes. And what's really exciting is they come from the puff pods in the Forest of Fahrenheit. So little kind of pod plants. And so if I were a cloud weatherling on my first birthday, I get taken to the Forest of Fahrenheit. And even though you don't quite know what's going on, you kind of pick a puff pod and then pick it from the ground, opens up, and out comes a little cloud creature. And I think I'd quite like a cloud cat like Nim. Obviously, if he exploded all the time, I wouldn't be able to use him as proper cloud, but I could still fly around and hope that he doesn't explode too far from the ground. That's the only problem. But yeah, how about you? What kind of weather magic would you both have?
I would probably have the sun weather magic.
Yeah, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? You could make the big sunflower glow in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be lovely. Be a brilliant sunkeeper.
If I had weather magic, I was thinking earlier I would go in between the wind weather magic and the rain weather magic.
Ooh, they'd be lovely, wouldn't they? Yeah, if you were feeling a bit warm as well, wind magic would be great, because you could cool everything down. And it's really good for dry and washing as well. The washing is wet. through the wind horn or the wind flute? Or what kind of wind instrument would you have? That's a good question. Could be anything you like. Flute or a horn or a trumpet. Or a clarinet.
I think I'll choose flute.
Flute's a good one. That'll be really cool. You can have it in a really nice strap holder. So we've got wind and rain and sun and then cloud. We've almost created all of the different types of weather already, haven't we? But yeah, I love that question, but definitely I think it would be cloud magic. And looks like the cloud weatherlings are doing very well today, actually, having looked out of the window.
Will there be an Amelia Fang book?
Will there be another one?
Yeah. Will there be another Amelia Fang book?
Oh, that's a good question. See, and that is an answer I can't give you a definite answer because I would love to write another Amelia Fang book. In fact, I was just talking about this yesterday, actually, because I do have another idea for After Rainbow Grey, which is kind of more, I don't know how much I can say. It's a little bit more Amelia Fangy, but I would love to go even back to the world of Amelia Fang, so even perhaps Amelia Fang and her friends when they're older, or looking at another character within Nocturnia or Glitteropolis even. You know, I'd love to create a story based in Glitteropolis, maybe, or a Ricky and Graham spin-off. I've always thought that would be really, really fun because they appear in every single Amelia Fang book. But you never know. I have actually got a storyline when there were plans to possibly do an 8th book. Way back when, I did have a storyline set up which involved a lot of pumpkins and the pumpkin queen. But yeah, so I'm hoping, judging by your faces, you'd quite like to read that. So maybe I need to make this happen. But there might be plans in the works for different forms of Amelia Fang as well, which we may see in the future. But yeah, there's lots of possibilities. There's definitely going to be Amelia Fang costumes as well. That's really exciting. They are happening. You're the first to probably know, but I can say because I've signed the contract now. So that's going to be a relief for a lot of people. But yes, I would really like to write another Amelia Fang, even if it's a little special one for Christmas time, or or Ghoultide, as Amelia and her friends would call it. So watch this space. We may see Amelia Fang. There'll definitely be some form of Amelia Fang anyway. So
The next question I'm going to ask you is, did you enjoy illustrating this book?
Oh, I really enjoyed illustrating this book because I don't know, because I was creating a whole new world, and I love drawing, as you know. And when I was coming up with the characters, it was really fun designing all the costumes. And as you've probably noticed, I've got a bit of an obsession with drawing waistcoats. And I think almost every character in this book has a waistcoat or a jacket in some form. So I love creating and coming up with the clothing and kind of the fashion for the characters. And I had lots of fun kind of creating the drawing of the school of Sky Academy and all of the funny little plants in the forest of Fahrenheit. And definitely the cute characters such as Nim. I mean, Nim is the easiest thing to draw in the book because he's a big floofy cloud with eyes and a mouth. So he's great, especially when there's an illustration that just involves him. I'm like, perfect. And it doesn't matter if he comes out a little bit wobbly and wrong because that's kind of Nim anyway. But yeah, I had so much fun drawing this. And I'll tell you, I had to draw it very fast. So I had about maybe a month or two to draw the whole book because it took me so long to write it because I kept rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. And then I finally wrote the final book. It was actually this year, beginning of this year. I finished it in January or February. And then this, bear in mind, it published in May. It had to go to print by March time. And so I was like, so what I do, I put on some music that I really like, and I love listening to movie soundtracks. And so I was listening to a lot of movie soundtracks, especially the Frozen 2 soundtrack was actually one of my favorites listening to whilst creating this book, and that really helped me to draw lots as well. But one thing I wish we could have done with this book was had colour on the inside, because being rainbow hair, that would have been amazing. But maybe one day, you never know. But yeah, I had lots and lots of fun drawing this book, and I hope you had lots of fun looking at the drawings too. But I tend not to look through them too much, because I always make a little mistake somewhere. I've already spotted one actually, which I'm not going to tell you today. I'm going to see if you spot it in the next few weeks. But there's a little continuity error that I've made that I was like, oh dear. But I don't think anyone's noticed yet. So it's a bit like when I drew Amelia with 6 fingers on the front of Memory Thief. So if you have a look at your front cover of the Memory Thief, you might notice that she's got 1 extra finger. But yeah, you'll have to wait and see if you spot it.
I think we just spotted it. Well, I did.
What have you spotted?
On the front cover,
yeah.
The U in Laura is in a capital.
Oh, that isn't the one, but that is a good spot. I mean, that is a good spot actually, but that isn't the one. It's to do with the illustrations, but I'll leave that to you. I'll give you a little clue in a couple of weeks if you haven't seen it. But if you do find it, you have to keep it top secret.
Okay.
Then I can tell, and we can tell you.
We can.
Yes. Yeah,
we can. Okay. So, how did you come up with the characters for Rainbow Grey?
Excellent question as well. So I think, I came up with the initial kind of character idea for this weather girl with rainbow hair and her cloud cat about 10 years ago, when I was just coming up with lots and lots of ideas as I came out of university. And I drew this little girl floating across the sky. And I drew these weather people kind of personifying the weather as well. So I had a cloud character, a rain character, and they looked quite different to the characters in Rainbow Grey now. But the idea of creating this kind of weather system and these characters that created and controlled the weather kind of always been in the back of my mind, floating around. And so when I was coming to the end of Amelia Fang, I had a few other ideas that I was playing around with. And then again, I drew this character with rainbow hair. And I hadn't intended to write a book about this rainbow character until my lovely editor at the time, Ali Dougal, she said to me, oh, who's this little character? And I kind of explained and said, oh, she's the idea of this kind of Weatherling, or well, they weren't called Weatherlings at the time, but this weather girl, and she can control the weather. And I think at the time she could control all different kinds of weather, not just rainbow weather magic. Again, that changed throughout all of the different drafts of the story. So at times she just had cloud magic and rainbow magic. At times she had all of them. And then I kind of eventually got to the idea of her having none at all, and then discovering that she was a rainbow Weatherling. But yeah, I kind of showed it to my editor, and she's like, I want to know more about this character. And it seemed to go down well on social media as well. She kind of caught people's attention. So great opportunity for World Book Day dress up as well with the rainbow hair. And it kind of flourished from there. So I had another idea which kind of was similar in the sense that there was this group of magical beings who dealt with something else, but I might go back to that idea, so I won't say too much now. But that's when I started to kind of create the other characters. And Snowden, he was always a part of the story, so I thought, oh, there's this boy who can make snow, and he in one of the original drafts, when Ray was an orphan in Madame Lucille's Home for Orphans on Earth, and she was human, didn't know that she had weather magic, Snowden kind of comes down and takes her up to the Weatherlands from there. So yeah, it went through lots and lots of different versions, but I kind of started with Ray, and then, like with Amelia Fang, created her friends and her family around her and built on that until it felt right. And I really wanted to create a really kind of core friendship group like Amelia Florence, Grimaldi and Tangine, because everyone can pick their favourites, everyone can relate to someone in a different way. And I wanted to do the same with Ray and Snowden and Droplet. And I think it's important to have a really good friendship group who are there for each other, but they still have their little ups and downs, which all friends and family do. It's natural, it's part of life. So I wanted to make sure the characters in the book reflected that and that were as believable as possible. But yeah, I've just had a lot of fun coming up with the characters and kind of developing them and writing about them. So, and as I say, they've become like my little family now. But that was a brilliant question. Thank you.
The next question I'm going to ask you is, which character was the hardest for you to think of their characteristics?
Oh, that's fantastic. The hardest one. Oh gosh, because I had a few tricky characters in there, and I mean, Ray was quite difficult because I knew in my head that I wanted her to be this really endearing character, and I always like the main character to be someone the reader will want to root for and want to do well and want to win and save the day. And in a couple of the drafts, Ray wasn't doing as much as I wanted her to. So I love Amelia Fang. She is a brilliant character. She's really kind and loyal. But I felt with the Ray, I wanted to give her a bit more drive and oomph than Amelia. So Ray's a little bit more curious and not mischievous, but she will break the rules, but kind of with the goodness of her heart. She doesn't do it to be naughty or bad or anything. You know, there are no bad characters. I want to stress that in my book. I always, even the ones you think are bad, there's more to them meets the eye. And a certain one that I'm not going to mention, but you will know of, that is mentioned in the book, and right at the end, there's lots more, as I say, than we already know. So Ray was very tricky because I spent a long time trying to figure out how I wanted to portray her character. And then in one of the last drafts, when I wanted her to be just very happy and driven. And then when I kind of got this idea that she never, ever gives up, that really helped. And I kind of almost echoed the feelings I was feeling whilst writing the book. I was like, I'm not going to give up on this book, must keep going, determination, passion, drive. Poured all of that into Ray, and suddenly it really helped when kind of writing her. So she was tricky to get right because being the main character, it meant a lot to me that she spoke to the reader. And the other one that was tricky, LeBlaze went through a few changes as well, because I was like, oh, you know, she's got a lot of layers. I'm not going to say too much, but she was really, really fun to write once I kind of nailed. And there's a lot more of LeBlaze that we'll see, and she's going to be a lot of fun to write. But I think if we're going to go for the opposite, one of the easiest characters was Kula La, actually, and Droplet, because I mean, Kula La wrote himself. He was always going to be a part of the story somewhere, because somehow a pigeon in a top hat and monocle just had to be in it. And I'd had this idea of a pigeon called Kula La for a long time, and I was like, where am I going to put this funny pigeon in? But yeah, I think Ray posed quite difficult, but you know what? It was so worth it. So worth all of the long days of trying to get her character right. But like Ray does with her, anything she's doing, got there in the end. So, but yeah, that was fantastic question.
I have another question. What inspires you?
Oh, lots inspires me. You could be anything. I always say to people that have a little notebook to carry around. I was once inspired by a bin. I always tell people this story. So I was trying to come up with a story for Evil Emperor Penguin once, and I was a little bit stuck. And I thought, just look around, be inspired, be inspired. Ah, the bin, human eating bin. There we go. And so it's proof that you can be inspired by them. But if we're going to get to kind of like things that inspire me when I'm writing, creating my books, music is a huge inspiration of mine. So I often imagine characters or scenes playing out in my head depending on a piece of music I'm listening to. And there was actually a piece of music that played a huge part when I was writing Rainbow Grey, which is called Children of the Sun funnily enough. And it's this really epic piece. I can't remember who it was by. It was, it was very epic. And at the end, it kind of does that thing a bit like in a trailer where it kind of calms down and then it goes bam to the chorus, like children of the sun. And I just imagined Ray and all of her friends, kind of coming together, and that really powerful moment where they kind of defeat the villain of the story. So whenever I was writing, I would listen to that. And I've got a Rainbow Grey playlist on Spotify, actually, which I listen to all the time. So music is a huge inspiration. I can send you some of the names of the songs that I listen to. And sometimes I create come up with theme tunes for each of the characters. So there might be, and I've got a whole playlist I'll definitely send you for Amelia Fang book 2, actually, because there's some very, very funny songs that are associated with like Fabio the unicorn and Florence when she's dancing around as well. But so music is a huge inspiration, and just magic in general. So I love reading books and watching films about magic in any way, shape or form. And I was hugely inspired by a lot of the programs I used to watch when I was your age, actually. And some of my favorites were like Sabrina the Teenage Witch on Nickelodeon. I think it was Nickelodeon or CITV. I think it moved around. And when I was very, very young, I loved a show called Wizardora. That was brilliant. I think that's probably far too early for you. But just all of the kind of fun characters. And there's a show that I've most recently watched, Gravity Falls. That has been a huge. Are you fans of Gravity Falls? I can see Alice recognizing it. So yeah, inspiration for me comes a lot from music, TV and film, and obviously books as well. But I think I've always been very, very visual. And I've always been a huge Pixar and Disney fan as well. So if I'm writing, I always write down a little note to inspire me and keep me going, saying, what would Pixar do? And that tends to help. And watching lots of behind the scenes documentaries about how animators and story creators come up with the ideas. It's very, very inspiring for me. And when I was writing Rainbow, actually one in particular, again, I'm going to mention it again, but there was a really, really inspirational documentary about the making of Frozen 2. And even though it's not one of my favorite films, I think I love it. But do you know what? I think I appreciated it so much more when I saw what went into it behind the scenes. And it allowed me to kind of just, I don't know, just seeing that journey that they went through to create it. I actually welled up a lot of the time. I got quite emotional, and it was amazing. So yeah.
Yeah. We really do love Frozen 2, don't we?
Yeah.
Are you big fans of Frozen? Who's your favourite character?
Maybe the little newt.
Oh yes. Oh, what's his name? I can't remember.
I think he had a name.
Did he not have a name?
I don't think so.
No, because I know the little gust of wind was called Gale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, Gale. And the songs are brilliant, aren't they? The Into the Unknown song, which I'm not going to sing for you right now, so I might hurt your ears.
I've also watched that program as well, the making of Frozen 2.
You have watched it? Oh, fun! Isn't it brilliant? Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, it is.
It's just so magical. I promise you, it did. I had to kind of get a drink of water. I was like, oh, especially the bit when they kind of brought all of the music together with the animation, and it all kind of just, yeah, everything came together. And it must have been such a good feeling for those creators and put all of that work and then seeing it come to life.
Yeah, I really like the drawing on it as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I bet you fell in love with the stones, the special, the kind of elemental stone. They were brilliant. And there's the little short film, isn't there, called Myth? And I thought of you actually. I was like, I know Alice loves beautiful standing stones. So.
The next question I want to ask you is, I know you have mentioned before that whilst writing a story you found it quite challenging. Why was that?
Yeah, so I think it was a mixture of things. It was starting a new story, obviously, after Amelia Fang, which I spent a lot of my time doing. You know, Amelia Fang was one book every 6 months, which I think back now and think that was very fast, actually. And you get so completely absorbed in the world, and suddenly you have to get to know these brand new characters, and it takes quite a lot of time. So I always say the first book of a series, I think you need quite a lot longer on, because with Amelia Fang, obviously I had as long as I liked to develop the characters and the story, because I hadn't been published yet. And then once it was kind of written, I could send it to the publishers via my lovely agent, and then people would read it. And then once you get that deal, they say, right, okay, let's go back and develop even further. So you have a really long time to properly get to know the world and the characters. Whereas after Amelia 7, suddenly it was like, okay, looming deadline for Rainbow straight away. And I think I'm going to learn from that, and in the future, when I'm starting a brand new series, possibly have even I don't know, almost a year to kind of give myself that time to really get to know and develop the new book, because I think it's so important, because you really don't want to rush these things, because at the end of the day, once it's printed, it is printed, and people will read it and see it. And I just wanted to create the absolute best book possible, because every book I wrote of Amelia Fang, I was learning something new, and I'm learning something new all the time with Rainbow, and I wanted to pull all of those things that I'd learned from writing those books into this. So I needed more time. And then I started to panic. I was like, oh, I'm running out of time. I can't write it. And me, I do love a little bit of a panic. And when you're a bit anxious and panicking, you can't think clearly. And that's why stepping back and kind of just maybe walking in nature, going to the woods, I was able to just think through the story and the characters, and kind of get a clearer idea of what I wanted to write. But I think also part of it was kind of being stuck at home for the year. You know, it was tricky in lots of different ways for lots of people. And I mean, I count myself very lucky in that I was still able to work on my books and that. But I think you don't realize how much you get, how much stimulation you get from just even popping to a cafe with a friend, or whether you're on your own, sitting there. I used to sit and write in cafes all the time when I was writing Amelia Fang, because I think just the process of coming out of your kind of living area, having a little walk, sitting down, get your drink, and you can hear the clinks and clatters of cutlery in the background and slight chitter chatters, and you think, okay, I'm in this space now, and it's time just to write my story. And I really missed that. But you know, you make things work. But I think there are quite a few things that contributed to it being a challenge. And again, I can say I've worked through that now. But I think every author at some point in their career goes through a little bit of a pickle, a little bit of a sticky patch where they find it a little bit hard to write. But then when you get to like hold the book, it feels amazing. You know how much heart and soul's gone into it, and you think, right, did that, and you can feel really proud of kind of getting through that sticky patch. But yeah, it was a very bizarre year, wasn't it, last year, for everyone. But you know, silver linings and all that. Excuse the pun.
If you could have any cloud pet, what would you have?
Definitely a cloud cat. I do go between cloud cat and cloud. And someone mentioned, what did they mention the other? Something very good. Some kind of cloud unicorn or something. But I think a cloud cat would be really lovely, because I love cats. And I like to think it would be like the cat I used to have called Tiddles. It was lovely. And I think he thought he was a dog. He used to roll around, and you could do anything, like scrub his belly, and he wouldn't like scratch or anything. And I used to tap my chest, and he'd climb up my chest and come in for a cuddle. And I always remember just carrying him around like a baby. So I absolutely adore lovely cats. So I think I'd have a cloud cat, because then in the evenings I could sit the cloud cat curled up next to me and some cloud cat cuddles, with a cup of Ozonian tea. That is probably what I would have. How about you guys? What cloud pet would you have?
A cloud cat.
Cloud cat. How about you, Phoebe?
I think I might have I'm not really sure. I think I might have cloudfish.
Cloudfish. That would be
Because
Very
I
cool.
do actually have a pet fish in there. I love my pet fish.
Oh, lovely. It's perfect because your favorite animal, you just think, okay, it'll be a cloud version of that. So, and they can change shape as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, do love a cloud cat. Big squishy one though. The fatter and squishier, the better.
Hopefully it doesn't explode as much as Nim does.
Exactly, yeah. That would be a bit of a problem, especially if you're eating. Nim likes to explode and then he just goes everywhere.
That's another question for you. Was it nice to think of different weather for different emotions? For example, Snowden's think flakes.
Yes, that was really fun. Do you know what? That was, and again, another idea that I had right from the beginning, when Snowden was always going to be in it. And I always imagined this lovely, very kind Snow Weatherlin, who's very, very clever as well. And every time well, in the beginning, he used to kind of create snowflakes from his ears when he was surprised or something like that. And he still does, but when I was developing Snowden's character and I knew, okay, he's going to be, you know, the really, really brainy one in school, and he's got like his attendance was 102%. And Ray's like, what? He's like, the 2 is very important. And the silly things like that. Yeah, whenever he's thinking really hard, there'll be what he calls his think flakes, which Droplet and Ray find a little bit gross to say. But yeah, the snowflakes come pouring out of his ears, or there'll be a time where he might be a little bit shocked and he's like, pop, just one single snowflake will come out of his nostril. So yeah, I had lots of fun coming up with the different kind of ways the weather reacts when they are feeling a certain way. And it's a great way, like with Squashy, when waggling his stalk from side to side, you're like, oh, he's happy, he's waving, hello, hello. And when Amelia was angry, she kind of flapped her wings angrily. So it's a great way to kind of portray emotions. And so, yeah, having the weather magic was just a brilliant way to do this. And there's actually something Ray does in book 2, because obviously she's starting to learn more about her magic. And whenever she's nervous, she twiddles the blue streak of her hair. So it's always just the blue one, but she doesn't realize she's doing it. But when, you know, if you're a little bit nervous, you might twiddle your hair or do it subconsciously, but she always twiddles the blue streak when she's feeling a bit worried or nervous about something. Droplet, on the other hand, she's just like splosh. So whenever she's feeling a bit frustrated or angry, she will get her rain cape ready. Or, you know, if she's kind of like, harumph, there might be a few little raindrops that splatter off of her shoulders or something. So yeah, it has been a lot of fun, and there's going to be many, many, many more kind of weathery emotions. Nim is another classic example. You know, if he's excited or something, he's just poof, and he explodes. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So though, and you know, thinking of all of the new ways that they can portray their emotions with their weather is really exciting as well. But yeah.
I love the Weatherstone Circle. Why did you choose a stone circle to use?
Excellent question. Yes, so the Weatherstone Circle, that came later on. I think I've actually got, yes, I've got some very rough images here. So as you can see here, some kind of stones. There's something very magical about a stone circle and very mysterious. And I knew when I was trying to think of how Ray kind of got her magic, I knew that there was going to be this strange crystal. It had been a necklace in the beginning, but then coming up with a special place where perhaps this crystal could be activated. And I knew that especially places like Stonehenge, a lot of people will visit during the equinox and the kind of the summer solstice, and that a lot of people say that they, even if they're not religious or spiritual in a way, they will say that being there at that moment was the closest to having kind of some kind of spiritual experience. So I felt like a stone circle, and I kind of come up with the idea. I was like, oh, that's a really a perfect place to kind of create this area where weather magic is strongest. And perhaps subconsciously in the back of my mind, because there's that amazing stone circle in the film Brave, isn't there? Where the kind of wisps guide Merida. And I think it just provided this perfect kind of base for Ray to obtain her weather magic. And then I thought, oh, what if each Weatherstone, stone contributes to a different weather magic? So yeah, it kind of developed from there, and now it's a great base where Ray goes to practice her rainbow magic, because the center stone, which has now made itself known, symbolizes rainbow weather magic.
What is the silver lining made from?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. I imagine it is made from a magical kind of silvery thread. So it's not, always when I think of it, it's not real metally or anything like that, or like or wire. It's just like a really thin, sparkly thread, a bit like a spider's web, because spider's web is very, very strong, isn't it? And the silk that spiders produce is incredibly strong. So silver lining is incredibly strong because it keeps the cloud pod houses afloat on each of the clouds in where Ray and her family live. So it's basically made of magical silvery thread from the clouds themselves. That's something I need to explore a little more.
What would your Reveling name be?
Ooh, what would my Weatherling name be? So perhaps I can think of my cloud Weatherling name and then my rainbow name, because every rainbow Weatherling has a different name as well, depending on their special rainbow gift. But if I were a cloud Weatherling, perhaps I could be called Laura. Oh gosh, Laura Lapoof, because I imagine my cloud cat would probably be exploding all the time. Or let me think. I mean, obviously the easiest one to go to would be McCloud. And I think I'd be maybe rainbow. What would I like to do as a rainbow Weatherling? I think I'd probably like to make rainbow slides, actually, like Ray learns to do at the end of the book. So rainbow slide, or rainbow bake, because I love baking cakes. I'd be able to turn different weather into I could make like rainbow cakes all the time. So rainbow bake or rainbow cake. How about you? What do you think you would be if you were a rainbow Weatherling? What would your special rainbow gift be?
My one would probably be Sunshine Bright.
That's a beautiful name. That's lovely. How about you, Alice? Do you know?
I'm still trying to think.
So many possibilities, aren't there?
I think I'll be Rainbow Rain.
Rainbow rain. Oh my goodness. Imagine how beautiful that would be. Imagine seeing rainbow rain outside. And then people wouldn't moan about the rain so much, would they? Because it would look really, really cool. Love it. Brilliant.
I've also just got one last question for you before we move on to the one where I ask all the authors these questions. So the last question I've got to ask you right now is, would you rather be a Woodland or a Weatherling?
Oh, goodness me. That's a tough one. Oh, because the Woodlands are great and they're going to be in book 2 a lot more. And I tell you what, I actually came up with my Woodland name. Do you know what? I think I would be a Woodland. I think I'd prefer to be a Woodland, because I absolutely love nature and being in the woods, in the trees. I can imagine you would be a Woodland too, Alice. And my name would actually be, so my nickname from my lovely granddad has always been Twiglet. So I think I would be a Woodland called Twiglet. And Twiglet will be appearing in book 2. So yes, I definitely think I'd be a woodland, and there's going to be a really, really fun scene where Ray has to visit the woodlands again for a particular reason, and we're going to meet like the head woodland. So think along the lines, I don't know if you have seen Dark Crystal, but Mother Aughra in Dark Crystal, that kind of like old wise woman of the wood. But yeah, so definitely a woodland.
Yeah. Now I'm going to move on to the questions I ask all authors.
Excellent.
What book made you into a reader?
Oh, do you know what? I always go back to The Worst Witch by Jill Murphy because I read those books over and over again. I wanted to dress up as Mildred Hubble. I always made little mini films about Cackle's Academy and tried to create potions unsuccessfully. So yeah, I think I have to say it's The Worst Witch has been one of the biggest, had the biggest impact in my life, because I found real comfort in those books and the characters. And as I say, I would read them over and over and again. And I usually read a book once and then I'm kind of done with that book. But with The Worst Witch, I used to read them just all the time on repeat. So I think I have Jill Murphy and The Worst Witch to thank for that.
If you had to choose one book to read over and over again, what would it be?
Oh, so I'm going to pick a different one now because I read the Worst Witch over and over again. Maybe even I loved Matilda. I really love Matilda by Roald Dahl and Quentin Blake. And there's something about it, but yeah, I think I would happily read that over and over again. I think it ticks all of the boxes for me. Are you fans of Matilda?
Yeah.
And she loves books as well, so you can't go wrong, really.
That's all the questions we got to ask today.
Oh, they were brilliant.
Also, thank you for coming on my podcast today, Laura.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. That was so much fun. And you asked me some really brilliant questions, some I had to really think about, which, you know, it's always good to get my brain working, ready for the rest of the day. But it was an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast and be interviewed by both of you, best friends, Alice and Phoebe. So thank you very, very much.
Welcome. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye.
Enjoy your day.